everyone, my name is Rachel and I am the blogger and podcaster of Fit After 50. In my last podcast, I talked about what stress is and what are the acute stress responses. So today we will continue the topic to talk about chronic stress, or the long-term effects of stress, and how we can manage and cope with them. When stress response lingers for too long, it will affect both our physical and mental well-being in various ways. First, one of the symptoms of acute stress response is increased heart rate. If our heart rate is constantly high for long periods of time, it will increase our blood pressure, and in the long run, it can increase the risk of developing cardiovascular diseases. Second, since stress hormones will raise our blood sugar levels, it will increase our risk of developing obesity and diabetes. Third, our stress hormones can also interfere with our memory and make us feel more anxious. In the long term, we may feel restless or annoyed. As you can see, chronic stress can have tremendous amount of impact on our health and well-being. So we need to find ways to manage stress as soon as possible. So how can we cope with stress? Well, I have come up with a 3-step framework to help us be more alert when we are experiencing stress and what to do about it. Basically, you just have to answer the following 3 questions. First question, are you feeling stressed? This sounds like a silly question, but it's actually a very important step, because if we don't acknowledge that we are feeling stressed, we will never be able to solve the problem. Suppressing our emotions doesn't help us well, because if we bottle up our emotions, sooner or later we will just rage out. And trust me, you do not want that to happen. One way to know if you are stressed or not is to be alert of the symptoms. As I mentioned in the last podcast, everyone experiences stress differently, so we need to know how and what we will feel when we are stressed, so that we will be more aware of them when they turn up. For example, you may notice your heartbeat getting faster, or you may be breathing harder, or sweating, feeling dizzy, etc. These symptoms act as little flags to tell you that you are indeed under stress. After you know that you are feeling stressed, the next question to ask yourself is, what is the cause or causes of stress? We need to identify what is upsetting us so that we can find solutions specifically for the stressor. The third question is, do you have control over the stressor? The amount of control you have on the stressor is a factor that affects how you will deal with it. Sometimes we are upset about things that we can't control, like natural disasters or bereavement. So the only way to manage stress in these situations is to either adjust our perspective or engage in relaxing techniques like breathing exercises or meditation to relieve the symptoms of stress. If the stressor is something we can control, like an exam, project deadline, or competition, we can use different ways to manage it, such as planning or seeking more information on the problem to better understand how to tackle with it. There is one coping strategy that I think is helpful to managing stress, regardless of whether you have control over it or not, and that is seeking social support. Seeking help or advice from others have a couple of benefits. They can be there for emotional support, like a shoulder to cry on or a person to talk to. They can also give you a new perspective on the situation, perhaps help you see that while things may seem uncontrollable to you, there may be certain aspects that you can indeed take control of. Most importantly, opening up to people you trust helps you to bond with them and establish a positive and long-term relationship. In conclusion, stress is not always bad for us. While moderate amount of stress can motivate us, too much or little stress can discourage us from doing our best. The amount of stress we experience depends on how we perceive the stressor and what we do about it. Following the 3-question framework can help us identify the stressor and find the appropriate method to deal with it. If we are able to learn to be more aware of our emotions and learn to regulate them, we will be able to maintain and enhance our health and well-being. That's all for today. Thank you for listening and stay tuned for our next episode. Bye!